How you doing? This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave. And what we're going to talk about is why does a music consumer vote with their dollars and lie with their words? And we're going to kind of try to give a kind of analysis on why we think that a lot of people are going to give a lot of lip service to the hip hop community and how they think it's negative, and how so many rappers are dying and yada yada yada. And it's kind of a way for them to kind of get a lot of attention because a lot of people are trapped up in the emotion. However, in our opinion, right, the actual business behind rap and the business behind hip hop music or the hip hop culture, it really doesn't substantiate that a lot of people have an issue with it. And that's what we're going to talk about. Really quickly, this particular show is going to be sponsored by www.thehighestpaid.online. That is an options training academy designed for three people in society. You don't like the fact that you don't make a lot of money. You don't make enough money to really meet your bills and meet your actual needs in this particular economy. The fact that you know that your money is going to be locked up as far as how much money you're going to make. You don't even have the potential to get a raise until next year. And the fact that you got to take all the time away from your family to make the little bit of money that you make, and then even it is still not enough. We figured out how to solve that problem by teaching people how to leverage the options market, as some people call the derivatives market. This could be a solution for you. We do have a track record of success, but you got to be committed to the change. You have to be committed to kind of unlearning some things that are not going to allow you to be successful, learning some new things, and also committed to doing the work to put you in the best position to be successful. But we do believe we have a plan for you. We look to be probably doing a sale this weekend. So I want to ask you to take advantage of that, because most likely that's going to be the lowest price you're going to get for us all this year. And even if you get a lower price in the future because of the rate of inflation, it's really not going to be adjusted. Let's go ahead and get to the content, right? So let me know you can hear me. I will be taking guests or speakers if you want to talk about this particular topic later on. But the reason why I want to talk about this is when somebody asked me to talk about it. So it kind of confirmed what I was getting ready to do. And I like to talk about the business of it, because one thing I've learned through sales, through marketing, is that what we call in sales, buyers are liars. What do we mean by that? Many people will tell you something, right, with their mouth, but their actions will do something different. And what you have is a lot of people saying that they're displeased with a certain thing, but their actions don't justify or substantiate what they're saying they're about. And when we look at this particular music industry, we look at what people will call rap or hip hop. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry, but it's unusual that so many people will tell you that they have an issue with it, right? So if you can hear me, let me know in the comments and let's keep going, right? So the question we want to ask is that how can people be so much against something that's driving so much revenue? You're going to get a narrative online, and you're going to get a narrative from certain people. Guys like Charleston White have tried to build a platform around it, is that he's against this particular music and this music is the worst thing. And you're going to get narratives that hip hop culture is bad for the Black community and hip hop culture is destroying the Black community. I'm going to continue to ask you, something can be detrimental to you currently, but it may not be the reason why you're where you're at right now today. And a lot of times we have an ahistorical point of view because there was Black poverty and Black death and Black disenfranchisement before there was quote unquote hip hop. Hip hop is supposed to be 40, 50 years old, right? A lot of the issues that we see amongst our people existed before hip hop culture. Now, hip hop culture may be, or rap may be contributing to it, but it definitely, in my opinion, wouldn't be the cause. Because to me, because of the condition of Black people inside the United States, they don't have a culture. Their culture has been given to them by somebody else. So everything negative about hip hop existed inside America. And hip hop to me is just an expression of negativity in certain situations. It also could be an expression of positivity, but it's nothing that has been created by Black folks. Now, I could have an issue with the industry and how it presents people, but the actual expression, none of the expression is what I would call novel or new, right? If there's misogyny in hip hop, there was misogyny inside the United States before that existed. If there's sexism inside hip hop, there was sexism inside the United States before hip hop or rap even existed. If there's violence inside hip hop, we know that America is a violent culture. Got nothing to do with rap. They could stop rap today. America would still be a very violent culture. Has nothing to do with that. And they would figure out a new justification for the violence that got nothing to do with rap, because America is a violence culture. We're violent people in America. It's just, it is what it is, right? The materialism existed inside America before hip hop. So hip hop may have given a new face or a new way to express the materialism, but the materialism already existed. And this is what a lot of people look to do, is they look to deal with the branches of the tree. I like to look at the root. I like to deal with the root, not the branches, because I can cut the branches, but until I do something about the root, the tree just going to grow in somewhere else. So then what I'm doing is I'm just playing catch up ball, and I'm expending all my resources trying to cut down the branches instead of dealing with the root of the tree. But that's what makes me different than a lot of people. So let's kind of talk about the revenue that's coming out of hip hop, because what I want to continue to ask is that if so many people are so against something, how come it drives so much revenue, right? And nobody talks about the revenue aspect of this particular business that we talked about before. Buyers are liars. Buyers will lie to you about their situation. So you learn in sales is that many times when you're talking to a prospect, they're lying to you. And what you have to do is uncover that lie and then give them a reason not to do business with you, because 9 times out of 10, they're lying to you about their situation, because buyers are liars. And what we have to me with this analysis of hip hop by people that are looking to get attention is they're going to use hip hop as the kind of the whipping boy for what's going on inside America. But if you look at a lot of these situations, they were going on inside America before hip hop, because I'm waiting for them to use hip hop as a justification for the mass shootings in America, right? Because it seems to be hip hop or rap is the reason why everything is going wrong. Now, I do blame rap and hip hop for certain things. I think that most people use rap as a way to try to understand things that they have no understanding of, and they think that's their understanding. And we're going to kind of talk about that, right? I think people think they know stuff that which they have no understanding of because they listen to rappers who also don't know what they're talking about. I do blame hip hop for taking things that were supposed to be kept amongst people that was involved in it, like narcotic selling, right? Like certain neighborhood politics that was supposed to be kept amongst those people, and they brought it to a mainstream of people who don't know how to handle that kind of information. And then they go and try to act this out in their real world, and they have no idea what they're doing, and they get hurt, and they was exposed to this through entertainers, right? And so that's what I think is an issue. But at the same time, I can't blame hip hop, because you can watch a mob movie, right? Which is something that we was never supposed to be exposed to. You can watch a movie about Colombian cartels, which is something that we wasn't supposed to be exposed to. But I think that hip hop has exposed people to certain elements of society that they weren't even supposed to know about because it's not their lifestyle. And then the person walks around thinking that they have an understanding of how this stuff works, and they have no understanding of how it works, because why? You're not involved in it. It's not your lifestyle. And you need to leave this alone and just take it as purely entertainment, which is what you do when you look at the mob movie or you look at the Colombian cartel movie. But for some reason with hip hop, you want to try to live this out in your real life, and you're not built for this. You just need to be entertained by it and go home. When I was a youngster, you had the action hero movies of like the late 80s. So Schwarzenegger and Stallone was putting out all them crazy movies. I never thought I was those people, right? I didn't think I was a Green Beret commando because Rambo was, right? But for some reason, a lot of people, they get caught up in this hip hop persona, and they start thinking that's them, right? When the person that's selling it to you is not even that. So Arnold Schwarzenegger was never a commando. He was never a mercenary, Green Beret, none of that. Neither was Schwarzenegger, right? Therefore, I didn't watch them and think that's what it was. But Predator, the first Predator, is a hell of a movie. It's a really good movie. But I didn't leave that movie theater trying to think, well, because I watched the movie, I know what goes on in the Special Forces unit. I had no idea what goes on. I've never been inside one. I got my homeboys' brothers was Green Berets, right? But I've never been inside one. So that's what I want people to understand. That's what I do say is a negative aspect of hip hop, is it's convinced a lot of people that they know about something that they have no understanding of because they listen to a lot of rap music. Then they try to deal with people that really know about this type of stuff, and they're going to get themselves in a lot of trouble because people can tell just by the way you talk, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You're just saying stuff. Okay? So, but we have to understand this particular music segment is a massive revenue driver, because inside the United States of America, Black music has always made a lot of money, right? Black music in America has always made a ridiculous amount of money. It just depends on who's making the money from it. But it's always made a lot of money in America. It's never not made a lot of money. And that's what I want people to understand. So whatever iteration of Black music is hot at that time, it's going to make people a lot of money, because Black music in America, once they figured out how to actually sell music, it's always made people a lot of money. You can go watch that old Ray Charles movie with Jamie Foxx and see how they was back then going back and forth over money, because Ray Charles was getting to it because his music was selling. He had good music back then. So let's go into this particular article from Goldman Sachs. Let me zoom this up a little bit, right? So Goldman Sachs bets on hip hop and millennials for music revival. So this is right before the pandemic, February 2019, right? So R&B and hip hop are the most consumed genre. Let me see, leading the industry's revival. In 2017, Goldman found live music publishing and recorded songs made 26 billion, 6 billion, and 30 billion respectively. The firm estimates by 2030, these categories are going to reach 38 billion, 12 billion, and 80 billion. So understand, by 2030, Goldman says live music is going to be $40 billion, 38 billion. You're going to get 12 billion for publishing, which is mailbox money, right? And you're going to get recorded songs, which is probably going to be a lot of streaming revenue, going to be at 80 billion. Okay, so recorded songs, right, falls into the streaming category. So streaming is actually a high-profile bellwether for African-American influence on mainstream in general. Black consumers and content creators influence almost every aspect of popular culture, from the shows we watch, catchphrases, clothes, magazines. Brands, content platforms, retailers who are serious about growth cannot overlook the enormous commercial power of the Black demographic, right? So Drake's particular Singing Day streaming record from Scorpion pulled in 170 million streams in the first 24 hours, right? On Spotify, it pulled in 132 million streams in the first 24 hours, right? Millennials are the main group helping to revitalize the music industry. Goldman found that this particular faction, a segment of the audience, is willing to shell out $163 a year on music. Specifically, when it comes to the Black community, they're outpacing millennials, right? And they're willing to spend $173 per year on music, according to Nielsen, which is a marketing firm, right? Music labels will continue to benefit greatly from streaming. Case in point, UMG and its family of labels, which include Capitol, Island, Def Jam. They got a deep roster of heavy hitters: Rihanna, Kendrick Lamar, Drake, and Amigos. Revenues for UMG first half of 2018 amounted to $3 billion, led by a 34.3% spike in streaming revenues, right? That's that. Let's go into how a New York street sound became a big music. So how New York street sound became a multi-billion-dollar industry. So in 2006, ABC did a special report, said the hip hop industry was worth $10 billion a year. By '06, ABC did a news report, said it was worth $10 billion a year, which is almost 20 years ago, right? It was almost 20 years ago. Then by 2016, that market grew to $15.7 billion. The industry is projected to grow at a rate of $4.8 billion, right? Just 1 year later, hip hop toppled rock and roll as the music's top earning genre. Rolling Stone estimates that hip hop controls around 31% of the music market, and the influence is only going up, right? While hip hop was always a thriving genre, it ultimately became mainstream after the murders of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls. This was in the mid-90s. Scholars believe that during the height of the East Coast, West Coast rivalry, the genre was considered too dangerous to mainstream. That's right. So the threat of violence at shows remained large. Advertisers refused to put their dollars in the industry. But once that was over and everybody calmed down, hip hop became a worldwide phenomenon, with new artists emerging in places like Tokyo, Cape Town, which is South Africa, London, and Paris. So by the turn of the century, which is 2000, hip hop became the best-selling music genre inside the United States. I think a lot of Americans think hip hop is only like an American music. It's worldwide, right? Everybody's copying what people inside, but especially what Black entertainers are doing in hip hop music. Everybody's trying to copy that and figure out how to present their own best face on it, but they're following Black entertainers' lead, right? So what is the size of the global rap music market? Really quickly to wrap it up, the short answer is the size of the global rap market was $15.7 billion in 2016. Annual revenue and estimated growth numbers through 2021 is about $4.8 billion, right? So we have to understand is that this particular industry is making a ridiculous amount of money. The question I want to ask again is that how does everybody have so much of a problem with this, but somebody is consuming this music? And we know that we have a Black consumer that's spending more money than the average consumer per year on music. And that's what you really want to ask yourself. So I think there's a little bit of dishonesty around people. And it's a great way to say, you know, well, rap is so big, I can attack rap and get a name for myself, because it's really the biggest thing going, right? So I can attack rappers and make a name for myself, because we know if you at the top, you're going to always have a segment of people that don't like you. Do I like everything I see out of rappers? No, I don't. To be real with you, and we're going to kind of go into a little deeper context, I think a lot of our entertainers are developmental delayed. I don't mean they're autistic. I mean, I think a lot of our young rap entertainers are developmentally delayed, and I don't think a lot of them even know what they're doing. I don't think they can comprehend the impact of their actions. I really don't. And I think the music industry takes advantage of these people, because when you listen to them talk, half of what they say don't even make no sense. And these are grown people. These aren't like 12 years old. These are grown people. We got contracts. But I think that what we've produced in America is a lot of developmentally delayed people. And I don't mean they're autistic. I don't mean that they have mental challenges. I mean, their development psychologically and mentally is not what you would expect an adults to be. And it's not definitely what an adults would have been maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I think a lack of bad education, a lack of family issues, their experiences growing up has produced a person, to me, doesn't really understand what's going on around them. And so this industry is able just to use them for what they want to use them for, because they churn rappers so fast. You're not going to be here anyway, right, in the next 2 to 3 years. So it doesn't matter what you say and what you do, right? That's my own opinion. Okay, so let's talk about what we saw happen in the last decade. And a lot of people that's not really into music, I'm really into music. We have something called the SoundCloud situation. And why is the SoundCloud situation important? What I want people to understand is this. If you look at the top rappers, as far as money coming in, if you notice, most of them are over 30. A lot of them are over 35. Some of them are over 40. And what happened in the late 2000s, I'm sorry, late 90s, early 2000s, is all the money got pulled out of music. Why? Because of the digital game. And the digital game pulled all the money out of music. And so therefore, it no longer was worth it to record companies, the A&R people. It no longer became worth it, because they didn't understand how to create a business model to where they really made money off of an artist until they started coming up with that 360 deal where they get money out of every situation. So what we had was a lot of people had to essentially bootstrap their way into music. And to me, what you got is a lot of younger artists that really had not been developed, but just figure out how to use technology to get their music out. And that to me was a SoundCloud era. So the SoundCloud era between, to me, 2010 and 2020, but really like 2012 to 2016, it was crazy. And you had a lot of really young artists on SoundCloud using it as a platform to get themselves to the next level, right? However, the money in rap isn't what it used to be. And the old guard never left rap, right? They didn't cycle out. There used to be a time when rappers got cycled out. Then you got this guy, the Jay-Z's, the Kanye's, the Rick Ross's. Those guys never cycled out. So they stayed in the game and kept making money. But what you got to understand, they're taking money away from younger artists that want to move into those positions. And what you got to me was a lot of extreme behavior just to get known, right? Because I'm a young artist, I got to compete with this guy who's already established, and I can't really compete with him on what he does. So what I do is I just go really extreme, because we live in a world where now negativity gets people's attention. So what you get is a race to the bottom, right? Look at all these artists right here, right? No disrespect to them, because there's a lot of narrative that, like, I don't, the older generation don't like young generation. I don't have no problem with young artists, because I want people to understand something. When Nas dropped his album, he was like 17, 18 years old, right? Tupac died at 25. Biggie died at 25, 26. A lot of rappers that y'all call legendary came out young. So it was never against young rappers, because, like I said, when Nas dropped his first album, he had to be 18, 19 years old. He wasn't no old person, right? A lot of really cold artists came out young. When Outkast dropped, they was young, So it ain't never nothing against young folks, right? Because I'm not against new music. But what I'm saying is that you had this way of bootstrapping your way into the music industry, but you was really not a developed artist. And so what you get is a lot of these young people where, in my mind, they thought the only way I can get traction is to be real extreme, because I can't compete with Jay-Z. I can't compete with Nas. I can't compete with Rick Ross. I can't compete with Kanye. I can't compete with them at what they do. So I got to go opposite of what they do. So it's not about the creativity. It's not about the music. It's just about me being this very extreme artist. And to me, we got a lot of that in the SoundCloud era. We're not taking none away. So what you got was a race to the bottom. If you look at this list of artists, right, most of them ain't really popping like that no more. They made a lot of noise on social media, but their actual music business really is not all that. They just got big on social. And this is what you see. So I think a lot of people are upset, but you have to understand the artist is in a position to where the industry won't put money in you until you generate some traction. How do you generate traction? You just be extreme, because it's not about music anymore. It's not about creativity. It's about attention. So what gets attention? Being extreme. Like, we live in an era where negativity gets attention. We don't live in an era where creativity gets attention. We live in an era where negativity gets attention, right? And you got to really understand that. And it's so cheap to make music now. You can just put out as much music as you want, but how do you get attention? And I think a lot of people aren't understanding the position that a lot of these young folks are in. It's not about creativity. It's not about dope music. It's about attention. And then these people come to you if you can generate the attention, and then they're willing to deal with you. So what do I got to do to generate attention? I got to put a lot of crazy hair in my face. I got to get on Instagram Live and curse people out and invite people to my penis. And then I can get attention by being negative. And then the industry says, well, he can generate attention, so then maybe we can work something with this particular dude. And to me, that's the model that they're playing, because there is no more developing artists anymore. They don't develop nobody. They just put you out there, right? Because it's not worth it to them to develop you, because you might not be worth it. So we got to race to the bottom. Then with these guys, right? And rest in peace to Jukes, we got to race to the middle. So they're not at the bottom, right? Even though Uzi is on both slides, they're not at the bottom. They more in the middle. But they're doing the same thing. None of these guys can compete with Kanye West. They can't compete with Rick Ross. They can't compete with Jay-Z. They can't compete with Nas. They can't compete with Nicki Minaj. They can't compete with those people. So to me, they in the middle, because you now have artists that's big on social media that can't even get ticketed shows. Like, most people don't know what a ticketed show is. They can't get ticketed shows, right? But they big on social media, but they can't even get a ticketed show. What kind of artist are you if you can't even sell tickets? So it's levels to this. But we're in an era now the way if you can generate the attention in the mind of the fan, you the biggest thing in the world, because you got 1 million listens on SoundCloud. So in their mind, you was where Beyonce's at. Not really, but that's the era that we're in. So you got to fight for the middle. What do I got to do to get attention at the middle? Be more extreme, be more negative, because it's not about creativity. Right? Out of all these 4 dudes, to me, the only one that has some creativity might have been Juice. Right? So it's, you got to realize, like, this is the industry now, but it's making money for everybody. Everybody makes money off this, right? Because of the streaming game, because of music sales. Now we're getting ready to take stuff into the metaverse. Now we're getting ready to take stuff into the gaming space. It makes money. Therefore, why would somebody stop doing it if it's profitable? And if I want a space in this industry, what do I need to do to get everybody's attention? Because it's not about creativity anymore. It's about attention generating. And I think that's what people don't understand. We're in an era now where it's about being negative to get attention, not just in music, but in all areas. When I was coming up, you had to be creative. You know, you just actually, even though Pac slid into a lot of negativity later on in his career, he was a very creative person. Biggie was also a very creative person. They just messed around and got caught up in some negativity late in their career, also late in their life. But there was a time to where the only way people would really put real money behind you if you was creative, because there was no internet to market yourself out of. So the music had to actually stand up. The music don't have to stand up anymore. You just got to figure out, what PR stunt can I generate to get more attention, right? Because you got to realize most of these artists don't get paid off music anyway. So who cares what the music does? They just got to be able to generate enough attention and make enough spectacle out of themselves to where you'll go see them in public. But most of them not even getting show money like that. They just known on the internet. All the real money in this rap industry is going to old people. We just going to say it. It's going to old heads. It's not going to young folks. They figured out how to create models and verticals because they got real publishing, real catalogs like Nas, where they make money every day without doing nothing. A lot of these young people don't really make no money because all they got is a streaming deal through Empire, which really don't make them no real money anyway. And they don't really have a catalog like that. Right. And they're coming into an era where all the money has been pulled out of music. Okay. And that's what I think people really want to understand. But I think the young artist is in a situation where the only way they can get attention now is to be negative. And I said again, I think a lot of these people is developmentally delayed. Don't think they autistic. Don't think they have a mental challenge where they're not smart. I think based on how they was raised, their development was delayed somewhere. And we're seeing the byproduct of that in an artist, right? What we got to understand is that that's on the front street. It's a lot of young people got that same issue. We just don't see them because we don't deal with them because that's not our peer group, right? So what people got to realize, and we're going to kind of go into the Offset situation, right? Because somebody asked me to talk about that. And I didn't want to just talk about him specifically, but I want to kind of add a larger context to it. What I want you to understand is that the job as a creative is to provide escapism. That's the job. So the job of a creative is to provide escapism, whether it's a book, a movie, music, dance, whatever it is to take you from where you're at into their world. Okay. And what people are buying is escapism. What world do they want to go into? It's a show right now called Andor. It's out of the Star Wars universe. I like the show. Somebody else might hate that show. They might want to watch something else. I like science fiction, I always have. Other people might like murder mystery. Other people like action movies. Other people like superhero movies. What kind of escapism does this person want to engage in? Right? And what I want to tell people is that a lot of rappers are providing the person with the escapism that they want, but the rapper's on the hook to keep that going. And like I said before, it's really not who that person is. One of the worst things we did about rap is we try to create a narrative that the rapper is really the person that they rap it about. With everybody else, we can say it's just entertainment. But with rappers, we started off wrong by saying, well, the rapper is really what they rapping about. The problem is they got to keep that up now. You know, Robert De Niro can play a mobster. He be killing people. And then we know once they say cut, that's over with. And when you see Robert De Niro in public, you don't expect him to live up to the mobster. With the rapper, we expect the rapper to live up to the character that they created on the screen. Not on the screen, but in music. We expect them to be that person. So then they got to live up to this, even though they're really not that person. So this is why Jeezy, who is north of 40 years old, and he will tell you, when he has a birthday, he buys real estate, is still putting out drug music. Because that's what people expect out of him. Because that's how he came out. He can't transition into something else. So he's still putting out drug music, even though he's north of 40. And I guarantee you he ain't messed with drugs in 20 years. And even though he's telling you every time I have a birthday, I go get me some more real estate, because really he's a real estate investor now. But his audience don't want to hear about that. They want Jesus to take them into the drug escapism world so they could feel like it's like to be a drug dealer, yada, 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 right? That's what they want out of him. And that's how he stays relevant in rap, right? And people really need to ask themselves, what are they expecting out of this entertainer? Because they're putting the entertainer into the obligation, right, of being this person for this other person's entertainment. And that's what I want people to really understand. Creative's job is to provide escapism to you. So people ask about this issue. We're going to talk about, what happened to Takeoff. He got shot down there in Houston. How come rappers don't move to the suburbs and get away? Everybody says, well, if you're a rapper, you should do this. And if you're a rapper, you should do that. And if you're making money, you should do this. If you're making money, you should do that. Right? But we're talking about people who, as entertainers, have to provide a certain level of escapism to their audience. And this is what I think people that are not creative don't understand. Right? So let me give you like a heads up for people that are not really creative. Creatives hang with other creatives. Right? So creative people know other creatives, right? Most people that work in the industry know people that work in that same industry. I'm a trader. I talk to other traders all day. When I was a media buyer, I talked to other media buyers all day, right? That's just what I did because they just kept me in my zone. They kept me sharp. Most people that's real estate investors, they deal with other real estate investors. People that work in law enforcement, they deal with other people that work in law enforcement. People that work in healthcare, people that got certain type of, jobs in the corporate world, they deal with those type of people. Normally, you're going to be grouped around people when you got some type of similarity around, right? Therefore, if I'm a rapper, why wouldn't I deal with other rappers? I'm a rapper because it's through those relationships we're going to get songs, yada, 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 and they understand the pressures of being in this particular industry. Why would a rapper be hanging around a bunch of accountants? You understand me? And I think this narrative of that, well, how come rappers don't just move to the suburb and get away? One, we don't understand how creatives move. So let me give you an example. I used to be in band when I was in middle school. We had something we used to call festival. Festival was where you would go to this particular school and you would play a piece for competition. Right? So when we went to festival, you go to the school and then you would wait to play the piece, right? While we was waiting to play the piece, we would be in the auditorium, we would be jamming because everybody that went to festival was serious about their music, right? It wasn't just people that just was in band just because they was bored. Because you had to get the piece, you had to practice, then you had to go to competition, you was going to be judged. So everybody played their piece and the judge judged you. So you now have shown that you're serious about your music. So you in there with other people that's serious about their music. So we would be in the auditorium in little groups just jamming, right? Because I'm around a bunch of other creative people. So we get each other. I don't think people that are not creative understand that a lot of times creative people want to be around other creative people and to be in a creative environment because we have something similar. That's one thing. The second thing is that if I'm selling you this particular narrative, right? So let's say I'm a street rapper, okay? And I'm selling you that I'm from the streets, okay? Or I'm selling you I'm a drug dealer. And you want to believe that about me. This is the dilemma that a lot of rappers and creatives, but especially rappers, find themselves in. The way to get really good at music is to make music all day. The way really good at playing an instrument is to play the instrument all day. There was I don't know, y'all probably don't know who Eddie Van Halen is, but he's a legendary guitar player. There was a guy that was rooming with Eddie Van Halen back in LA back in the 80s. And he's told this story about he was getting ready to go to the club and Eddie Van Halen was playing the guitar. And he told Eddie, man, I'm getting ready to go to the club. Eddie was like, well, dude, do me a favor. Get me a 6-pack and bring it back to me while you go to the club. So he did that. He left to go to the club 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. He went to the club, did his thing, came back early in the morning. He said Eddie Van Halen was still inside that room playing that guitar. The reason why Eddie Van Halen was so good at that guitar because he made that his life. Therefore, it was other parts of life he didn't know about. Why? Because he spent his whole time trying to figure that guitar out. But Eddie Van Halen was not responsible to sell you this persona around who he was. He just had to show up and play the guitar. A lot of these rappers are selling you, I'm this person. I'm this drug dealer. I'm this street dude. I'm this quote unquote trapper, right? That's the common term they're using now. So they got to sell this to you. The question is, if I'm in the studio making music all day, when am I around this environment to be picking up slang, to be picking up clothes, to be picking up fashion, right? When am I around these people to pick this up? So what do? They surround themselves around those kind of people so they can figure out what's in. Because if you're not in the environment, you don't know what's going on. You're in the studio all day making music. Therefore, I surround myself around these people so I can pick up what they're doing and then I can sell that to my audience, right? Because the only reason my audience likes me because they think I'm a door into this underworld, into this secret world of people selling drugs and people being gangsters and yada, yada, yada. And if they don't think that about me, they're not going to like me no more because they're not with me because I'm just that creative. They with me because they think I can bring them into this secret world. So let me give an example. Michael Jackson sold creativity. Now, a lot of people don't know who Michael Jackson is because it's been such a long time before he was at the height of his music. But he just sold you, I'm creative. Beyonce is just selling you, I'm creative, right? Adele is just selling you, I'm creative. I can really, really sing like that. A lot of these rappers are trying to sell you on, I'm living this lifestyle. I'm this kind of person. It's not about their creativity. Therefore, they got to keep that up. How do they keep that up? They hang around people that really live like that. Right? And that's so you expose yourself to a lot of danger Because if you're trying to sell this street persona to people, then you got to really go deal with people that's really on the street. But they don't have the same kind of concerns that you got. Why? Because they're not rappers. Right? So this is how Pac messed himself up. Pac started getting fascinated with gang culture. Then he started trying to sell that to people. So then what does that mean now? You got to start hanging around gang members. Worst thing he could ever did. Then you get into it with a gang member because you trying to conduct yourself like you a gang member, but you don't realize gang members don't make records for a living. They really gang bang. So you get into somebody that don't have nothing to lose by gang banging with you. You got everything to lose. He got nothing. He has something to lose by not gang banging with you. And you get shot. But because you get fascinated with this gang culture and you start trying to sell it to other people, instead of just being a dope creator, Pac was a dope creator. He could act, he could write poetry, he could rap, just be that. But see, you get fascinated with this stuff. And so that's what I'm saying is that we're expecting these rappers to sell us this lifestyle instead of just being a dope rapper. I ask people all the time, why did 6ix9ine think he had to tell people he was a gang member to be successful in music? Right? Why did he feel like he needed to do that? Why did Rick Ross, who was a football player, was a CEO, why couldn't he blow up till he started taking on the persona of a drug kingpin? I'm from Florida. I knew who Rick Ross was before a lot of y'all knew who he was. Rick Ross used to be on some lyrical shit. Right? He was on being real lyrical. That didn't work for him. Right? That didn't work for him. Once he took on that persona of I'm the big drug kingpin, he blew up. Went to the moon with it. Because he had to sell people on that persona to get them to finally start listening to his music. He always had the music. There's nobody wouldn't listen to it. Because they needed to feel like Rick Ross was going to bring them into this world of Miami drug dealing, kingpin, yada, yada, yada. But that's not really what that was. It was all entertainment. Right? But why did he need to tell people and to sell people on that to get y'all to finally pay attention to his music? Right? And that's what I want people to understand. Now, he did a good job of navigating that situation. But a lot of other people not going to do a good job of that. Right? I think a lot had to do with he was older too when he blew up. Rick Ross didn't blow up. He was almost 30 years old. And that's what I want to say. Many times y'all are asking rappers to sell you this escapism. That little wild chick from Suniana or whatever her name is, like there's no music there. So she's selling to you this crazy lifestyle. Same thing with what's the girl out of Houston? Why you just can't sell me the music? Why you got to sell me all the rest of this stuff? Because she believe you're not going to pay no attention to me if I don't sell that to you. So then I got to live out this lifestyle for y'all, right? And that's what I want people to understand is that many people are expecting these entertainers to be this person for them. Because I want to see this mirror into this street world. That's why these YouTube channels are so big. Dudes on YouTube talking about what they did when they was in prison. Why do you care? But you may not have known nobody went to prison, right? So you want to sit back and listen to somebody talk about what happened when they was in prison. But you're only interested in certain parts of being in prison. Why don't you ask them, well, why aren't you interested in the fact that for a lot of these dudes, every time they went to visitation, somebody had to look up their butt? Y'all don't want to hear about that part. Y'all don't want to hear about, well, how do you manage using the bathroom if y'all on lockdown and y'all can't come out the cell? How do y'all manage having a bowel movement? You don't want to hear about that part either. You just want to hear about the fights and this happened and this, because like I say, you want this escapism into this prison world. Then I want the escapism into the street world. Well, but you don't really want to know what really happens. Like, how do you call somebody's mama and tell them so-and-so just got killed? You don't want to hear that part. You just want to hear the shoot them up, bang, bang part that sound exciting. But how do you call somebody's mama that you know and tell them, yo, so-and-so just died? And you know this woman in real life. You actually know her. How you tell her that? Right? What do you do when somebody gets killed out here and they got kids? How we manage this situation? These are type of things nobody don't, because that's not the exciting part of it. So none of this stuff is, I got dead homeboys. This ain't that's not impressive to me. Somebody sold some drugs. Okay, and what? So you got to come with some real creativity to get my attention. Because the stuff, that little stuff you trying to sell to these other people, that don't even mean nothing to me. That's not impressive to me. It does not impress me at all. Right? It impresses a lot of people on the YouTube, but that don't impress me. But I'm telling you, the audience is demanding this stuff out of people. The audience is demanding this out of people. Then when it goes south, everybody talks about how, this is so negative, but they don't realize they're demanding this stuff out of people. This person can't just come to you and rap and make good music. They got to add all this other stuff to it, right, for y'all to be interested in them. And so that's what I want people to understand, is that this is what people are demanding out of people. And a lot of people that's really from these situations, they don't even do that. A lot of people don't really know what Kendrick Lamar really come from, because he don't put that in his music, right? He don't really put that in his music like that. He could have came out on a whole nother type of tip, but the people around him was like, man, we're not even going to do that. We're going to come with something different. And that's what he did. He blew up off of it. But he could have represented a lot of stuff more than a lot of these other people, because that's really where he come from. But they just weren't going to do that. But that's what I want people to really expose themselves to. It's unfortunate that Takeoff died, right? But I ask again, if somebody's selling you this persona, they need a reference point to sell the persona to you. What's going to be their reference point to what they're selling? So if I'm selling to you that I'm hanging out in the street, don't I really need to hang out in the street to get what's going on in the street right now? Right? Because I'm selling that to you. So don't I need to be able to emulate what people in the street is currently doing at this time? So I need to be out at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning with street people, because I'm trying to emulate them. They really doing this. I'm just an entertainer, because the audience is demanding I be this person for them, because they don't want to go out in the street and really see what's going on. They want to live through what they think I'm doing. Right? So that's why you get guys in their 30s start telling you that they from a gang, because that's what the audience wanted from them at that time. Right? Then they doing something else. But I thought you was in a gang though. But that don't never come back up. I went through that cycle. Now I'm doing something different, because they was never in a gang. The audience just wanted that from them at that particular moment. So they gave it to them. Now they go into something else. And the audience forgets they ever asked that out of them, because the audience mind is clicking like this anyway. They easily distracted. So whatever's the hot thing now, that's what the audience wants out of them. And then something else, that's what the audience wants out of them. And then something else. And it just keeps going on and on. So really quickly, like I said, man, this is the invite. We're going to go through the comments, man. If anybody want to come in and chop it up about this particular topic, we can do that. But I'm going to ask you to stay on topic, and then we're going to get up on out of here. So, Sarah, these rappers become method actors instead of track thug image. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. But that's what people want. That's the problem, is people want this stuff. They don't want to just hear music. They want all this extra stuff, because, that they won't hold their attention. So JLD says, I see many comments on Twitter questioning rap culture. That's what we asked for, definitely. We're asking these people to be these people. So Vic says, J. Cole made it being lyrical, so it's possible not to be a character and still make it. I 100% agree with you, but I think J. Cole's an exception to the rule. I think the masses want these rappers to be this people, right? That's my personal opinion. But you're right, J. Cole made it. Kendrick made it. A lot of people made it just rapping. But like I said, there's levels to it, because Kendrick's a really, really successful rapper. So is J. Cole. They actually can get ticketed shows. A lot of the guys to me at the middle and at the bottom is where you see them engaging in a lot of the craziness. Because the Migos to me was not a crazy group, right? They, in comparison to a lot of other people, they was not a crazy act. But to me, a lot of the crazy acts are the people that's at the bottom and at the middle, because they really don't have the creativity. They really don't have the music. So they got to do everything else just to get people's attention, because the music's really not there. And that's why one of the things I didn't like about the internet and music is it made people do everything except produce music. Because all I wanted to really know is when the music is coming out. I don't care about anything else you're talking about. But because they don't have music, it's everything else. And all I care about is the music. I don't care about nothing else. So GC says, eating that nasty food, sleeping in them dirty rooms and that hard ass, but definitely people don't want to hear about that. They don't want to hear about that type of stuff. Because if they did, they go visit them people. Right? Dennis, I'm going to get to in a second, man. Let me get through these comments real quick. So GC says, it goes back and said lack of creativity. The persona is a thing we think would differentiate them and everybody from rapping about the same stuff. Yeah, definitely. Let me go through here. Okay, let me get rid of this comment real quick. Let me go here. Doom, doom, doom. Let me go here. Hey, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
What's going on, man?
Oh yeah, I come to talk about the the industry in particular. I already know what has happened. Well, the industry politics in particular. Yeah, what has happened to Takeoff was very unfortunate, not fair. I won't say fair. But my whole thing with the well, I'm gonna stick to the topic. But my whole thing with the you know, the gang culture, right? Apparently, right? The Migos. I mean, they went without the label crew called Quality Control, aka QC. Um, and they went in to check in with one of the with Jay Prince's mob ties click. But now that has happened, that's gonna put a stain, and you know, from people from trusting from trusting Mike Jay Prince. I hope I'm not sounding confusing.
No, you're not sounding confused. I'm just so what I want to ask you is that why do you think people demand a certain persona out of rappers, but then when something negative happens, they have a negative reaction to it?
Or well, I'll add on to your question. I'll even say this. Then when stuff like this happens, then then people will say, "Oh, we got to do better." This the problem with the culture. I mean, but guess what? You consume the music, you purchase the content, you purchase the material, you voted with your wallet. Wink, wink. I know it's no such thing technically. I mean, because you could put on people, or you could push the button. You know what? Just the other day, I was on a Zoom, not a Zoom call, but like a live stream, where an artist did a deal with Sony. I mean, he wasn't a huge artist, but he did a deal with Sony. And Sony pushed the button. The next thing you know, he was hitting #1, the #1 charts, all that. So yeah, there's if you get that button push, yeah. The one thing you have to understand, if you're trying to have your music out there, you gotta have to spend a lot of money. You gotta have to have a good upfront capital. I don't know if you know who Russ is. Russ said something of if you want to promote your music, or if you want to get your songs played on the radio with certain multiple radio stations, you're looking at to add like a good 100K budget. If you could come up with 100K, you get your stuff get paid attention to by these radio stations.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming through, man. I appreciate you contributing.
Okay. Wait.
Right,
Before I go, one thing. The reason why when people say this thing of, oh, this need to be that, this need to be that, the only way to show that is to not giving no attention, not paying no mind. But we all know what that's leading to. But that's all I gotta have to say, and I'm just let the next caller go in. Well,
all right, be easy. All right. What's going on, man?
Hey, Diamond Dave, this is Yoga. This is just my internet name. But I'm calling specifically from Grant Park, Atlanta, GA, Atlanta proper.
Okay, cool. What's going on?
And so on the topic, I see I've been following your channel. You drop wise content, and this is very on point right now. I went to North Atlanta High School also, and Migos, they went to North Atlanta. They talk about it in their songs. I'm a little old. I'm in my 40s. Exactly. I know some other rappers that are national rappers that are here from Atlanta. I know their parents, their father. And one in particular, he's a creative, and his son blew up, and his son's on the level. I'm not trying to call him out or anything. He knows me as Yoga too, so I'm not trying to call it out. But he's a known artist himself here in Atlanta, photographer. And when his son came out and came out, kind of looked like the Migos and stuff like that from Atlanta, all of us in our 40s, we were like tied to the traditional hip hop. and we kind of looked down a little bit on all of the drug culture, the Jeezy stuff, because we came off the Goody Mob and the Outkast, where you have to have a talent. You can actually rap.
Yeah.
And we were so surprised. We was like, look, your son coming out like this, and Coach K also had signed him, and we was like, we was surprised. So we was like thinking that he was going to be dropping, some in his son's ear about the culture and keeping up with the persona. And then it just came out earlier last year that his son owed for all this jewelry and bagged up. So I know personally, being here in Atlanta, that knowing the family members of some of these artists, that it's exactly that they're trying to, they're not street. They cannot be street if you're in the studio, if you're on tour with the record label, if you're on BET and all these other things that got you on the circuit, you're performing in the studio. It's like a full-time job.
Exactly.
So it's no way where the kids don't know this. The high schoolers, the folks over at AUC at the colleges, they don't know this. They cannot physically do what they're saying with the man hours and also be at all these places and social media and these award shows, and they got them on a schedule. So you hit it on the head. And the other piece is when one gets signed, like MFN Lucci from Summerhill, one gets signed, all the cats that I know from Summerhill, Grant Park, Peoplestown, back to Cleveland Avenue, all of them start living through the one of the two cats that got signed, YFN Lucci, Thug, and then they living through them but they in the crew, but they're not at the top level of the crew. They the mid and the lower level of the crew. And just like you said, with the artists, it's a stage, and the ones at the bottom, they doing the wild stuff. Then a subcategory within those rappers' crews, the ones at the bottom are doing the wildest thing, trying to show loyalty, get on the payroll or stuff like that, and they doing that too. So it's like it's really negative, and it's self-deteriorating from the get-go, because the artists coming in with that mindset. Everybody thinking when they rap now, they get signed. Everybody's looking, where's the chain? Where my chain at when I get signed? Like when Goody Mob got signed, Outkast got signed, it wasn't none of all of that. It's a chain ceremony, and we're gonna give you this chain. You feel me? Yeah, so now when each young rapper gets signed, they do a chain ceremony, and for the publicity, and then it's and they put that subconscious standard on the young rapper. Now he subconsciously, and then he blows the signing bonus, and then he's in the wheel, and we saw it. I do not understand why these guys have real money, or not even real money, real stardom and fame. You cannot just be walking out in public, and these guys in these other cities feeling like you taking all our attention, all our women to go with you, you're on national TV, and they in the club with you, and they in the bowling alley with you, and they trying to hold frame, but they super jealous. They wondering, all the women and all the girls in here got their cameras out, they want to take pictures of the Migos. That's just not a good environment to be in when you don't control the security, you don't have deals set up with the club owners and stuff like that, and not trying to take this, I'm gonna check in. That's not business. You don't see, guys that are worth something, they got something to lose, really getting out here and just, I'm gonna go to the local bar and shoot dice and kick it with the local guys. No, it's gonna breed jealousy. You got to realize that everybody's not eating and not winning out here.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. I agree with you, but let me ask you this. So if we're promoting a street persona, right? We gotta, because let's just say we was really running the street, and let's say we was really getting it like that, and we go to a spot, it's gonna be jealousy behind that. Because so I just think they falling victim to what go on in the street, but they got to expose themselves to it because they got to pick up that flavor. Because like you said before, if I'm constantly working, making music, because we talk about the Migos, so they from North Atlanta, right? I heard it was from Gwinnett. They call it the North Side. I never knew that was Atlanta.
Yeah, but you know, all of the metro, yeah, so everybody say ATL now.
But to me, they had a city of Atlanta look. So to me, they was trying to look like the dudes that actually lived inside the city.
Yeah, they was looking like Zone 3.
Exactly.
They was looking like, Kirkwood, Summerhill, Cleveland Avenue.
So they got to be around that to pick that up, though. So then, I think that just becomes normal to them. And then, like I said before, is that if, when you're working in music, you're going to have peers, people, yada, 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 because you're just networking. Because the problem with a rap artist is they not like a Beyonce where we're going to just segregate them from everybody. Because Beyonce don't need what we're doing to make her music. She can just make her music off what she do. But I think they got to be around what's going on to make their music, especially as they get older. Because really, Takeoff was 28. He was really out of the sweet spot because he getting old compared to like what young people is doing. So I just think they get into this habit of living like this. And then, like I said, to me, they was already imitating, because let me tell you something real. About 3-4 years ago, I was having sushi with this chick, and she was talking about the Migos, and she was talking about like what they were saying. I said, nobody that young knows what like a lot of drugs is anymore, because it ain't drugs like down the street no more.
No, it's not the 80s anymore.
You know what I'm saying? So they just talking, they just putting this persona, but nobody, this is when they was in their early 20s. I say nobody 23, 24 years old know what a whole lot of drugs look like. This ain't 99. This ain't 89, 91. This not that era. And Atlanta was a city that was known for a lot of drugs. It's not that type of city no more. It's still out here, but it wasn't how it was 25, 30 years ago. So I told her these dudes is just coming up with a persona that makes sense. It's going to allow them to be successful, but it's just entertainment. That's not really their lifestyle, because I never knew Gwinnett was really like that, but I ain't from Gwinnett. I'm trying to figure out what their point of reference was.
It's not. Gwinnett is not like Gwinnett got the Asians and the Mexicans.
That's what I'm saying.
More than blacks.
That's what I'm saying. So I was trying to figure out, and then I heard they went over to the cross. They was over there off was it Cross Creek?
All of that still. It's not like that. That was more persona. They're my little cousin them age. So they came out. You got to think they came out in the age where social media was already out. So you could say anything. Go to Instagram and say, "Oh, I'm doing this. I'm a big this."
That's what I'm saying. And so, but it worked because, like I said, they young audience don't know. They don't know no better. So, you know what I'm saying? So, like, you got people in Atlanta that tell you, remember, they when Techwood Projects was pumping.
I played baseball at Techwood.
You know what I'm saying?
Hank Aaron, Ricky Lee. Well, this is that day. Another thing is why people bite now off the Migos persona, and a lot of other rappers come out of Atlanta is if their street, that's the A&Rs. That's Coach K. That's Kenny Burns that he on View on 3 now. I'm just looking at all the A&R guys that I know and knew of here in Atlanta, and that develop stuff in the A&Rs. They're developing that persona. You got about 5 or 6 main A&R guys here in Atlanta up under the records. You know, they the middleman, and the record label don't know. The record label paid them to give that persona to their artists and do this and don't do that.
It worked though. So if it worked with, because you know that dude Lil Pump out of Miami.
Yeah.
To me, he was just a white version of the Migos.
Yeah, I can agree. I can agree.
And they tried to put that out there to try to get a white version of Migos. Now, it didn't really work because he wasn't even nowhere near no kind of artist. He really was just a drug abuser. But it worked for a minute with that little song he had. So I can agree because the Migos work. But it's interesting is that you take some dudes that's really from the metro area of Atlanta, but they supposed to be representing city of Atlanta culture, but they really not from the city. And that's been my problem is that and I'm not from Atlanta, I'm from Florida. But the actual Atlanta natives and the city people, they don't get they push. It be everybody else coming in, and they get pushed like they really representation of the city. And then these people think that's what the city really on.
A lot of people don't peep that. Ever since I got to go back here though. Everything that was coming out of Dungeon Family had that positive tone, that revolutionary tone. I think the last one to come up out of that was Killer Mike. In the second generation. But the undertone for all the Dungeon Family, then the outshoots was it's gonna get to a revolutionary state. We got to come together. We got to build business. The type of things that you talk about on your show. That's why I click in. And then it seemed like once the nation and the world ate up Dungeon Family, specifically Outkast, with them positive, and Dre with them type lyrics, them positive lyrics, and all the other cultures jumped on them, Asians, the Africans, Europeans, everybody jumped on Outkast. It was like it was a deliberate by the record labels. They put out, and Outkast and Goody Moore had so many other MCs in Atlanta rapping like that, aspiring to be like that. The younger ones coming up. And it was like a deliberate thing to not put none of them on. It was plenty Kendrick Lamar's in Atlanta after Outkast really reached their peak. You feel me?
I feel you.
And so a lot of them guys, and I personally went to school. I went to ML King Junior Middle School in Summerhill. Then I went to Maynard Jackson High School over in Grant Park. And I went to school with the Yin Yang twins from middle and high school.
Okay.
And there's no knock on them. They was really in the special education classes.
Okay.
So
I feel you.
no, and there's no knock on them. They from Inglewood,
real.
and so they do the little Hein and all the stuff on the albums. Everybody, like, wow, they sound like they kind of might be, special education, but they really are. And so you got people, the A&R guys, College Park, or Mr. College Park, a couple people, they went and specifically got that type of situation and looked over all the up and coming type Kendrick Lamar's other guys that was off of Big Boy and Dre, and I can call them out. It was Jermaine Dupri, Mr. College Park, Coach K, people, Kenny Burns, people over at LaFace Atlantic. The other guy that he killed himself, Shakur Stevenson. Yeah. He was the A&R with Jeezy them. And see that, and these people was really be in the clubs in Atlanta, really be on the circuit because they the A&Rs.
Yeah.
So back in the 90s, early 2000s, you can go to a party and really the A&R really there. So I really see them, and all of the creatives talk, like you said, all the creatives will be like, they ain't biting on nothing like positive like Dungeon Family. It was like they saying like, we already got Dungeon Family. Nobody else come to the bring your CDs. Don't come to the showcases if you rapping anything positive, something like that. We're looking for the opposite. And that's how Jeezy and all them got on, because the wave for Atlanta was going revolutionary. And then so they was looking at everything, sign all the artists to cut the grain. But because Outkast and Dungeon Family really got the city of Atlanta on lock, it's hard. It was more of the Kendrick Lamar type rappers than what we seeing now. And it started, what I want to say, Lil Jon just, and just made soul albums on just saying, and there you go. Those are some of the main players. And I was on the ground really seeing brothers lyrical getting dissed. And then they go to New York. And then next thing you know, they getting on all the circuits in New York. But the A&Rs in Atlanta really wouldn't. I guess they got something that was like, we don't want any more of that type of energy in the hip hop. We're going the other way.
I feel you. Well, I'm gonna get to that next caller, man. But I really appreciate you coming in with that real history, man. Especially, like I said, people really from the city that know what time it is, man. So I really appreciate your contribution.
All right, peace.
All right, peace. So, Future Billionaire, what's going on, man?
Man, all is good, man. Thanks for doing what you do. I love the show.
I appreciate it.
My major question is this: hip hop. When you broke down all the spending power that hip hop has, and if we look at just the timeline of everything, rock and roll started back in the 50s, became super popular, and was like the dominant influence, especially in the 80s, right? But then hip hop took over in the 90s, which was created in the 70s. So that's about a 20-30 year span where hip hop became, super popular, the most influential thing in the world. My question is this: one, can we change hip hop culture to make it where it is better and more positive in an influential way? Or if not, what's that next thing that's going to, that probably has already been created, if we're being real about it, probably in the 90s, that is going to be that next thing that overtakes hip hop?
Okay, so I would ask, why do you want to change hip hop culture? I mean, because if the culture is what people want, why do we need to change what people want? Because at the end of the day, we could come up with a different variation of something else, but people still want the same stuff. So I don't think hip hop is feeding people what they don't want.
Well, I'm gonna be real with you. I kind of disagree with you because,
okay,
and here's why. We are, I hate to say this, but American culture in general, we're a bunch of sheeps, to be real, with only just a few true leaders out there that's guiding the sheeps. And all it takes, I mean, if you think about it, look at how much time we invest in social media. We'll look at how much time we invest in something as simple as TikTok. And you watch all these influencers who go in and do a simple dance on TikTok and have the entire country doing it. that's more, that's just them leading us versus giving us what we really want. Because in all honesty, I really do believe that the majority of the people who created hip hop, the people who are real to hip hop, like myself, man, I've loved hip hop ever since I was born. I'm over 40 years old right now, and that has been the predominant music that I've ever listened to from the beginning. I am more along the lines of, I want the J. Cole's, man. I know this is gonna sound corny. I remember when Arrested Development first kicked off, and I loved it. I hate that they went super pop, but I loved it because it was down to the roots of what real hip hop was for me. I want us to get back to that, because I really do believe that at the core, at the essence, we all want that type of positivity. Every Black person wants to be able to build a business. We want to come together to be able to take over. So I really don't believe that we are being fed what we want. I really believe that we want more than what we're being given, to be very honest with you. So I really want to know, is there a way that we can actually steer the culture back to where it was originally intended for? And if not, what's that next thing? Because I know there's another next billion-dollar art form that's out there.
I don't have any opinion on that, because I'm a marketer. So one thing we learn in marketing is you don't try to create desire, you just feed a desire that already exists.
Okay.
So I would be going against the principles of marketing that I was taught by saying the data is lying to me, and really people really want something else.
Okay.
Right. So I would tell you is, if you think there's an alternative to what is being produced, I would tell you to produce it and find a market for it. But to me, human beings are human beings, and they want certain stuff, and people just figure out how to feed that. And there's different iterations of it. And like I said, is that everything that we see going on in rap music right now, it went on in America before rap music.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Rap, yeah. So I'm saying, so to me, that's really what people really want, is just in a different iteration of it. But it's really what people want. Because let me give an example that don't have nothing to do with music.
Okay.
Most people won't tell you that they watch pornography, or the porn industry is bigger than Hollywood.
True.
But people really want that. They just won't admit it, but they really do. And so that's what I'm saying, is that people often lie about what they really want. And I think a lot of people, you may be the exception, really want this type of stuff. They really want to see our people look a certain way. And that's why they support it with their money. And then they may say in public, well, we really want something else. But no, they really want what they're supporting with their money.
I feel you. I feel you. And don't get me wrong. I mean, listen, I rock with the Jeezys. I listen to it too. However, if you ask me which one is who's my favorite artist, I'm gonna say Cole. I'm gonna say Kendrick, because that's where I want to put. And I would rather put my money into more of those artists than I would the artists that are telling me, or are basically just feeding me lies. Because that's really all it is, man. It's lies about or stereotypes and lies of who we are, and we don't control all of it. That's the thing that really bothers me the most, is that we are not in the people who made this. Even though we are in some high-powered, influential positions, we are truly not in control, because if we were, half of the stuff that's being produced would not still go out. And man, I'm sorry, I get really passionate and I start stuttering when I do. But that's my biggest beef right now with our culture as hip hop. We have allowed other people to come in, to take control of it, and to turn it into something that, in all honesty, it was never intended to be. But that's my point, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me.
No, man, appreciate you coming through, man. Be safe out there. Take care of yourself.
Thanks.
All right. All right, Cheryl, unmute yourself, please.
Hey,
how you doing?
Hey, Dave. Good evening. I am a new quote unquote follower of your channel, and I'm thoroughly enjoying your content.
I appreciate it.
So just a little background. I am from Los Angeles, born and raised in Cali, Southern California. I moved to Atlanta in the 90s. So I know the scene you're talking about when it comes to the street life, the club life, and all that. And I also I am 40-ish, so I understand the music of NWA and talking about street life and wanting to get out of it, as opposed to the young rappers really kind of embracing it and basking in like degradation. So with that said, I was really going to touch on I know you mentioned avatars, and I agree with you. I feel like these rappers, they get in so deep that they don't really know what they've made agreements with. And when I mean agreements, I mean they're coming into agreement with not just earthly contracts, but spiritual contracts. And I believe that when you get into a position where you're method acting, and really becoming caricatures of street people, or whether it's a pimp or prostitute, whatever you're selling to the masses, you're coming into agreement with spirits. And hey, you come into agreement with spirits. So you're working with the earthly world and the spiritual world. And not only are you signing legal contracts on earth, but you're signing contracts with dark spirits. You're making covenants. And yes, you are rewarded. You know, you're getting to change money at a, you know, accolades. But, you know, it gets to a point where you're going to have to pay the piper. And I think that some of these young men, they really convince themselves that they are that character. And you see that in how they conduct themselves, not using awareness when they're moving in the street, not having awareness when they're moving in certain circles. And unfortunately, a lot of the brothers have been taken out, whether it's Biggie, Pac, you named a lot other guys. And and I'm sure you understand what I'm saying, or maybe you don't, but other people do. You come into agreement when you personify these characters. So that's all I was going to say. And just keep up the good work, and good evening.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question before we let you go. So why do you think, so they can do whatever character they want, but why do you think the consumer demands that character? Because if I'm doing a character that the consumer don't want, it don't matter what character I do.
Well, for me, I think that, like you said to the gentleman before me, as a marketer, you're going to sell people what they want. I think that Black Americans, we've been fed a steady diet of degradation, and not just Black Americans, but America. I would say that we have been subverted. We used to be very conservative, and then I think it's been like a slow trickle on our community, and also Americans as well, of whether it's steady diet of pornography, violence, whatever. And so I think now we're at the point where we crave it, we want it. And unfortunately, they see that we crave it and we want it, not necessarily me or you. And so they are going to play the part. And so, you know, you have people method acting, and they're doing these incantations and they're personifying things, but they don't know that they're coming into agreement with a whole different thing. You know, so it's like when you are tapping into that dark energy, it's going to follow you. You know what I mean? People make these legal binding contracts with these record labels, and they have all kinds of ceremonies behind it, which, you know, that's a whole nother conversation. But I kind of, at first I wasn't into Drake. And then I kind of got into Drake, and I was like, I liked the way the brother was moving, because it's like Drake, I don't even see him as like a rapper. I see him more kind of almost a songy pop rap guy, but he seems to be like the type of businessman rapper that knows how to navigate that. Like, hey, I'm not gonna veer way over here. I'm gonna stay over here. You know, I may affiliate or talk to, but I'm gonna stay over here where it's safe. But then you have gentlemen that want to keep it real, and keeping it real will sometimes take you to an early grave. So.
Well, you think it would have worked for Drake if he would have came with a different persona based on what he came out of? Like, I think Drake went with what worked for him. Drake also got a lot of money behind him.
Yeah.
So we talked about the levels. Drake was able to come in and get really, really well financed.
Yes.
So I don't think he had to do what a lot of other people had to do from like an extremism standpoint. And I don't know if that would have worked for him because of the way he presents.
I think you're right, Dave, because I think, wasn't Drake on Degrassi?
He was on television.
Yeah,
he was on television.
He was on Degrassi, and he was on like the newer version of Degrassi from when I was growing up. I went to high school in the 90s.
Okay.
I don't think to answer your question, he could have gone another way. I don't think it would have worked. And I think some of it is colorism. And also, I mean, it could have worked, but then, like you said, he didn't have to because he comes from a pretty stable, well-money kind of family. He had also the Hollywood backing, so it was really no need. And then at the end of the day, it's just like when you come talk about longevity, it's like if you want to really be running in the streets and you want to keep it real, how long are you gonna be able to do that, and how long are you gonna live? Like at a certain point, you're gonna have to either it's not gonna work out. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to make a switch, and that's why I always, go back to me growing up in Los Angeles. Like I have family that affiliated. So they grew up in Nickerson Gardens. They were
She cut off. All right, she fell off. Okay, well, Sarah, you fell off. I didn't cut you off. You fell off. I don't know what happened. Guess your internet connection jumped off. But I appreciate you coming on. Let me see right here. Okay, so yeah, appreciate everybody for coming through. We're gonna go ahead and get up on out of here. David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave. Appreciate the conversation. Y'all be easy, man, and be safe.